I didn't get into sim racing because I thought I would be good at it. Like most people, I got into it for a few reasons. Personally, I loved cars. There are others that come into sim racing because of their love of racing. And there's this belief, at least a little bit, that if you put effort into a hobby, things would come naturally. Sim racing is approachable in that way because it looks quite familiar. You have a steering wheel, pedals, a track you've seen on TV 100 times. It feels like something you should understand quickly. However, this assumption is the first lie sim racing tells you. This is a video about hard truths. It's not meant to discourage anyone, but to be honest about what sim racing really asks of you. But before going there, a big thank you to all the viewers, members, and subscribers. Without you, videos like these wouldn't be possible. I'm also trying to get 100,000 subscribers this year. Hopefully it is this year, and all the help is appreciated. If you press like and subscribe, that will help a lot. Thank you so much. So this is the first point that I'm going to say. You will suck, and that's okay. When I started sim racing, I sucked. And thinking about it, I still suck now. I'm not saying this in a vague, self-deprecating way, but in a very measurable, undeniable way, because I was slow. I am still slow. I was inconsistent. I made the same mistakes over and over again, sometimes in consecutive corners, and no matter how many laps I ran, the gap to fastest drivers felt permanent, and still today, I'm still a second or two off the fastest guys. At first, that was frustrating. I felt like I was doing something wrong or that I simply didn't get it the way others seemed to. But over time, I realized that this experience wasn't really unique. It's basically the default state of almost every sim racer out there who has ever started. Sim racing doesn't really gently introduce you into competence. It throws you into a system that immediately exposes your lack of skill, and that can feel harsh, but it's also honest. There is no way to bypass this stage, and there is no shame in being there. Sucking is not a sign that you don't belong. It's proof that you are learning something difficult, and sim racing is quite difficult. Which leads me to point number 2. The only way not to suck is training. For a long time, I confused racing with improvement. I assumed that if I just raced more or joined more sessions or did more laps, entered more events, progress would follow you automatically. It does somewhat, but there is a huge ceiling that you won't reach just by doing times. What actually happened was that I reinforced some of my bad habits and disguised them with basically adrenaline and feeling of vibe coding. Training is different. Training is slow, it's repetitive, it's quite oftentimes quite boring. It requires intention rather than just, going for the races. It means practicing corners or sections of the track with intent instead of going for races, which honestly are quite more exciting. And then there's the other part of it, that even though you might put a lot of effort into it, just like a sport or anything else of the type, that effort sometimes doesn't really become productive. But that's really the truth. Sometimes, if you really want to get better at the skill, you have to practice the skill until failure, and failure often comes many times, and you have to repeat that failure. That's it. In sim racing, it's like that. In martial arts, like I'm doing right now, it's just part of it. Naturally, because this can become quite an expensive hobby, a lot of people will try to cover losses in speeds and technique with new equipment. But spending money won't make you suck less. Falling into the belief trap that better equipment unlocks speeds is kind of dangerous in sim racing because there's so many angles you can come to. Of course, spending money to get better immersion is totally fine, but never think about spending money in this hobby for the case you're going to be faster at this, because you definitely won't. It won't really fix your fundamentals, and in some cases it can make your flaws more obvious, because while upgrading may feel productive at first, it often delays the real work you need to put on track. And the hard truth is that skill doesn't really scale with spending. I've done already a few videos about this, but the truth is that in sim racing, the law of diminishing returns hits really soon. And while you may gain some speed by going into basic load cells, after that, the speed that you will gain is actually close to zero, if not zero. And in some cases, it can be a detriment because it's going to be quite hard to tune up your wheels or your pedals. Because of it, you won't really brake better because you spent more money on the pedals, or you won't turn smoother because you spent a lot of money in a direct drive. These things can enhance the experience, but they don't really replace discipline or the understanding of the art we're trying to put into track. Because you do a lot of equipment reviews, the realization is that there is, at least for wheelbases, top wheelbases, very little between them, and for pedals, it's really what gels with you the most. It's not about really putting a lot of money into the hobby. And that leads me to the next point. The only money that actually makes you faster is training tools and doing some coaching. I know this is going to sound a bit like that Simpsons sketch, but I have the example with channel sponsor Coach Dave Delta. The tool is really good and gives you a lot of information on how to brake, how to approach certain corners, and you can compare yourself with other drivers. And then, of course, you have the added bonus of having faster setups. And this is really where the money that you spend is useful, is in tools, because it really forces you to be honest with yourself. You know, telemetry, coaching, doing all of these structured training that you can do on the side, and spending money if you want to do that way, because these won't really flatter you. They show you exactly where you are losing time and why, and using these tools can be uncomfortable because seeing your mistakes being laid out in data removes your excuses and replaces guesswork with clarity. Can't mask clarity with money in equipment. You really need to give that clarity a chance to actually make you change and track. Of course, just having these tools won't make you automatically faster, neither setups do. It just makes you aware, and the awareness of where you're losing time is actually really powerful when you're doing the next time you try to figure out how much you need to brake less or more, or the exact point where you need to brake. There's also another hard truth about the hobby. I don't think it's spoken enough. We oftentimes romanticize, you know, the races and the driving and all of this, but the point is you really need to embrace the suck, because crashes are inevitable. I've caused them, I've been collected by them, and I've lost races because of them early on, and sometimes even today. You know, each incident really feels personal and unfair, and it's like you're being targeted by this big conspiracy. And over time I realized that reacting emotionally only really compounds the problem, and sim racing, like real racing, does involve some risks, and mistakes will happen under pressure. Other drivers will make poor decisions, and none of this is really avoidable, and resisting it only will deal with frustration. There are a few ways for you to deal with that. The faster you accept the incidents as part of this process of racing, the faster we will recover, and not just in races, but mentally, and that's the most important thing. Embracing the suck doesn't really mean lowering your standards, though. It means acknowledging reality and choosing to learn instead of rage. This is something that I'm still learning and trying to be better at. Even though I'm saying this, it doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. I'm just aware that this exists.
And the rear of this car.
Also, something to be aware. Sucking at the hobby is actually quite fun, and there's a strange joy in being bad at something when slowly becoming less bad at it. This is not exclusive with sim racing, it's actually part and parcel of every hobby. In the beginning, when you do this, you know, the small things really matter a lot, like clean overtakes or winning with your first race. And as time goes by, these small things feel like they are smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where you don't feel like you're doing anything worth of value, which is ironic, because if you think about it, the phase that we take the most victories or the smaller victories as something really big is actually the phase that people try to get away from as fast as possible. And when I look back, the moments I remember most fondly aren't really my fastest laps, but the moments when finally something made sense. It's like kissing the first girlfriend. Even though if you don't stay around with her, there's something generally quite special. And something special about sim racing is that this hobby isn't just GT3 at Spa. This absolutely pisses me off because it's what we see the most nowadays. It's like the idea of sim racing can be really narrow. It's this car and this track because everybody does it. not really that fun after a while, because there are other formats in sim racing, and expanding beyond these formats, while it may feel uncomfortable to you at first, it's quite important, because there's so much more in sim racing than just, you know, what is popular out there at the moment. Drive slower cars, pick up those shit boxes, go do it in some track that nobody knows. There's so many mods in Assetto Corsa out there, or even in iRacing, there's so much content that you can emulate, you know, old cars and stuff like that. You just don't need to do always the same car at the same tracks. It gets boring, and that's a point about sim racing as well. If you don't have fun, this will suck. And that's the most important lesson I've learned in sim racing, is that it really stops being worthwhile when you start becoming fun, because it becomes really a chore. It's something that you do it often just for the sake of it. And when hobbies become that, they lose all their magic, don't they? Especially in skill-based hobbies like sim racing, you get to that plateau and you can't get out of that plateau. And if you don't have fun while you are on that plateau, all of this feels like quite redundant and boring and just grinding, and sucks. And that's the point. Sim racing is a hobby. It doesn't owe us success, validation, or satisfaction. And what it does offer is an opportunity to learn, to struggle, and struggle is actually fun, and to improve at our own pace, learn things that are different. If that process isn't enjoyable, then no result is worthwhile, and what the hell are you doing here? That leads me to the conclusion. Sim racing is demanding, it's honest, and often uncomfortable. It requires patience, humility, a lot of it, and a willingness to be bad for a long time, you know, even today, over a decade later. But for those who accept these conditions, it often offers something really rare, a meaningful progress earned through effort. You will suck, there's always a bigger fish out there, you will feel stuck, and if you can learn to enjoy these moments as part of your process, sim racing becomes more than a hobby. It actually becomes something really enjoyable and wholesome. Embrace the suck, and above all, remember to enjoy the drive, press like and subscribe. Thank you.